Okay, think of the word genius. I'll bet I know the first name that just popped into your head. Albert Einstein, right? Of course. I mean, his name is basically shorthand for brilliant. But have you ever really stopped to think about why? I mean, seriously, out of all the brilliant people who've ever lived, why is he the one we all think of? Why is he the face of genius?
Well, the answer is probably not what you think it is. In fact, the real story is so much weirder, so much more interesting, and honestly, it's kind of shocking. You're not going to see this coming.
I mean, we do it all the time, right? Your friend figures out a tough puzzle and you're like, okay, Einstein, he's the undisputed champ. But behind every legend, there's the real story. And believe me, this one is full of some crazy twists. And what's so wild is that Einstein himself basically told us the secret. You've probably heard this quote before, but it's not just some inspirational poster stuff. This is the actual key. This one quote unlocks the entire mystery of his genius. All right, so to crack this thing open, we've got to start with the most obvious place, right? His brain. And let me tell you, what they found, or rather, what they didn't find, after he died is the first big shocker in this whole story. And this is where things get really, really weird. The pathologist who did his autopsy, this guy, Thomas Harvey, he literally stole Einstein's brain. Just took it. He carted it around for decades, convinced he had the secret to genius in a jar. But when scientists finally got their hands on it and studied it, the big reveal was, well, it was a total letdown. Physically, it was kind of underwhelming. Yeah, look at the numbers. It's nuts. His brain weighed about 1,230 grams. The average adult brain? Around 1,400. So his brain was actually a little bit smaller than average. So if you were looking for some kind of super brain, the physical evidence just wasn't there. The secret wasn't in the hardware. Okay, so if the hardware wasn't anything special, it's gotta be the software, right? His raw processing power, his I2 score must have just been astronomical, like the highest ever. That's gotta be the answer. And look, his estimated IQ was super impressive, a whopping 160. To put that in perspective, 100 is average and over 130 is genius territory. So 160, that's incredible. So mystery solved, right? He was just way, way smarter than everyone else. Not so fast. Because the second you put his score next to some other historical geniuses, the whole highest IQ theory just completely falls apart. Check this out. Isaac Newton, estimated around 190. And then you have this guy, William James Sidis, maybe the smartest person who ever lived, with an estimated IQ of something like 250. And here is the absolute bombshell. If you just go by raw IQ score, Einstein isn't in the top 10 smartest people in history. He's not in the top 100. Statistically, he probably isn't even in the top 1,000. There are thousands of people who have had higher IQs. So this is the big paradox, isn't it? If he wasn't the smartest, why is he the ultimate symbol of smart?
See, the paradox only exists because we're looking at the wrong thing. IQ tests are awesome at measuring certain skills, logic, remembering stuff, and especially how fast you can solve problems. But they can totally miss other kinds of genius. And that brings us to Einstein's real superpower.
Because the source of his genius, it wasn't raw computational speed. It was something way more rare, and I'd argue way more powerful. It was his absolutely fearless scientific imagination.
You know, Einstein himself would tell you he struggled with complex math. He actually had to get help from others for the heavy-duty calculations. His gift wasn't being a human calculator. It was his ability to see the universe in a way no one had before. He wasn't just connecting dots that were already there. He was imagining the fabric of space and time and gravity itself.
And the proof? It's in his predictions. These weren't just theories. They were more like prophecies. He wasn't just solving the problems of his day. He was dreaming up a whole new reality and basically daring future scientists to prove him right. And how they did is just mind-blowing. Just look at this timeline. It's unreal. He publishes his general theory of relativity in 1915. A little proof comes in 1919 during an eclipse. And then, for decades, nothing. For almost a century, his craziest ideas, things like gravitational waves, black holes, they were just ideas on paper, scientific prophecies. That's the scale we're talking about here. His imagination was so powerful, he dreamed up things that it took the rest of us an entire century to build the technology to finally see.
We literally had to invent Nobel Prize-winning machines just to catch up to his imagination from 100 years earlier.
And don't think this is just some abstract cosmic stuff. The reality he imagined is the one you're living in right now. Take the GPS on your phone. You use it every day. The only reason it works, the only reason it can tell you where to turn, is because those satellites up there are constantly correcting for Einstein's theory of relativity. His imagination is literally navigating your car.
So, okay, we figured out the genius part. It was imagination, not just IQ. But that still doesn't explain why he's the icon. Lots of scientists did incredible work. So why is it his face, his name that everyone knows? It's because he had that X factor. He wasn't some stuffy scientist locked away in a lab. He was a character. The crazy hair, the witty one-liners, that twinkle in his eye. He didn't just have the genius brain, he looked the part. He created the whole archetype of what we think a genius is. And that, right there, is the last piece of the puzzle. His incredible imagination made him a legend in the world of science, but it was his personality that made him an icon to the rest of us. It made his unbelievable intellect feel human. He was someone you could admire, not just be intimidated by, and that combination is what made him immortal. So, when you boil it all down, real genius isn't just about a high score on a test. It's about having an imagination so bold, it can see a new world. And that leaves us with one last question to chew on. What idea is being dreamed up right now, today, that's going to completely reshape our world in 100 years? What's the next great prophecy?